Welcome to the XY Advisor Podcast, a global community of financial advisors sharing and learning with one another to drive the positive evolution of financial advice. To get involved, go to xyadvisor.com or simply download the XY Advisor app.
Portfolio construction and risk management are tasks that take you away from where you need to be, building relationships with your clients. Aberdeen Standard Investments can support you by creating bespoke investment solutions. Outsourcing portfolio and risk management creates efficiencies, enabling you to focus on fulfilling the ambitions of both your clients and your business. This podcast has been prepared with care based on sources believed to be reliable, and all opinions expressed are honestly held at the applicable date. However, it is general information only, and we accept no liability for any errors or omissions. It's been prepared without taking into account the particular objectives, financial situation, or needs of any investor. Investing involves risk, including the risk of losing capital. It's important that before acting, investors should consider their own circumstances, objectives, and financial situation, the information's appropriateness to them, and consult financial and tax advisors. Investors should consider the PDS available at aberdeenstandard.com before making an investment decision. Products issued by Aberdeen Standard Investments Australia Limited, ABN 5900212334, AFSL number 204263.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of the XY Advisor Podcast. We are talking all things scale in our Scale Up series, and today I'm joined by James Wortley. Welcome, James.
Yeah, thanks, Fraser. Good to be here.
Fantastic to have you on. Now, today I wanted to get you on to the conversation and bring you into the conversation around scale, because I believe that you're doing some amazing things in your business, and especially the adoption of technology and the overall client experience. So thank you for coming on. We will go into that in a second, but before we do that, I thought I just might give you an opportunity just to say sort of who you are and where your business is and where you've come from.
Yeah, so we're Enlightened Financial Solutions up in Mackay in Queensland. So population's around about 100,000 people. So good regional centre, great place to live, gateway to the Whitsundays. So from a business perspective, well, we're a self-licensed business. We got our licence back in 2017. We're growing pretty quickly. We're growing around about 20-25% each year. From a client perspective, 354 clients is about $2.5 million ongoing revenue. So average fees probably around about $7,000 for it. So, but if I just go back, was a Westpac financial advisor back in '98. Gone through the banking system. Had the opportunity in 2007 to buy my clients through Magnitude. So one of those early adopters for that opportunity. So started Magnitude Financial Advice Business on the 1st of April 2007. What a great day.
April Fool's Day.
Yeah. And then what happened after that? Not a lot. Yeah, so a bit of market turmoil after that. But got through that and now grown very well. We've done a couple of acquisitions over that period of time, but we now have 5 financial advisors and 13 staff altogether.
Fantastic. And all the staff are in that regional or rural area of North Queensland? Yeah,
they are. Yeah,
fantastic. Well, thank you for that great introduction. So you're an advisor. You've evolved as time goes on. You've got a lot of clients that are existing, but you're also in a phase of growing, which is incredible. We're going to talk about some of the stuff that you've done in your practice over the last few years. And before we get into that, tell me about the process that sort of started this evolution of you embracing technology and going, right, how are we going to engage our clients in a way, use technology and really grow the business from where it was?
Yeah. So again, from the technology perspective, I love technology. Love having to play with it and seeing what you can actually do with it, and wasting a hell of a lot of time on it as well. So, but coming back to where we were, and I'm sure everyone's gone through that process and continue to go through that. But in 2017 was the game changer for us. So we became self-licensed. So as soon as we got that license, so again, we were previously Securitor before then. Once we got the license, it was like everything. It's just like this brand new toy. What are we going to do? We're going to change the world. How do we change it? We got all these things to do. And then we've worked out, okay, you now need to do a statement of advice for every single client that you have. So the journey that we started on was, okay, let's start to re-look at everything that we do, but let's look at it from not our perspective as a financial advisor. Let's look at from a client perspective. And that's the one thing I think we get a little bit lost, especially with all the regulation, the Hayne report and everything that we've gone through over probably the last 7 to 8 years. So from our perspective, it was 12 months of consolidation, but we were working on that client experience. So the one thing, and if I just go back, the way we previously did it was we see a client, so it might be a brand new client. We do the first interview, we then do a second interview. We'd say, okay, look, for us to be able to provide advice, we need to do a statement of advice. We'll need to charge you $3,000, $10,000, whatever that statement of advice fee is. Again, client goes, yes, okay, happy to get the advice. We then send instructions to paraplanner. It might come back 6 weeks later, it might come back 3 months later. From then you're presenting the advice, you're going through a 100-page document, you've got all these projections and everything else, and you present to client. Then which I find a little bit hilarious now in hindsight, is then we ask the client, do they want to proceed? So we've done all this work and we're actually given an opportunity to be able to say no again. And then we start to do the implementation process. So we then came back and said, okay, from a client perspective, what are they doing? They're coming in for the first interview. They're coming in for the second interview. They're waiting for this 6 to 7 week period to be able to provide advice. And there's so many advisors that tell me they don't even go through the statement of advice. They'll go through the summary and just say, look, this is what this is all about. And they have the statement of advice on the side and say, look, yep, this is our compliance document. So, and then we give them the opportunity, yes or no, and then we do the implementation. And where does that statement of advice go? That 100-page document it goes in the filing cabinet or a bin and never to be seen again. Yeah. The projections are out of date. So as soon as we're actually presenting that, it's probably out of date. There's, again, government legislation changes, economic conditions change, life changes so quickly as well. So we've just gone and, if this case, the client's actually just invested all this money to get this statement of advice, and it's out the window.
Can I ask you a couple of questions around this? Because I've got some theories around the value associated with a statement of advice, and stick with me on this, because I think the real value is in the implementation, the process of them saying yes and you implementing, and then after that fact, they've then been provided with some value. I know we put this value on a statement of advice because it costs a lot of money to produce. So we instantly, as the advisors, think that there is a value associated to this document. But from a client point of view, is the value actually in the document?
No, it's not. The value is in their first 2 interviews, where actually you're building trust with clients and you can actually give them an understanding with how we're going to help them and just earning their trust. So generally when we get to that statement of advice, say, look, we're going to present a statement of advice for you and you're happy to go ahead. The clients have got the trust, so they're going to go, generally 80-90% of clients will go ahead with whatever you're actually going to talk to them about, because you've gone through some of that detail with how we're actually going to help them. But I'm with you. The value, everything that we do with value comes back to its client, being in front of the client and actually talking to them about what are their values, what's important to them, and what do they want to get out of life. How do we help them live their best financial life? That's what value is to me. And we do get a little bit lost in the compliance side of it as well.
Yeah. So tell me, after this pain, and I pretty much think that everyone's feeling the pain, what did you decide to do about it?
Yeah, so for us, client experience, so for our initial meetings that we have, we talk about client values, really important. We go through a lot of detail to be able to understand what's really important to clients. After we have that conversation, we've got some of their information. We use Astute Wheel, so we've got all that information up front, so we know their financial position. So we can whip through that pretty quickly to understand where they are. So we're talking about the values, and then how do we turn that into goals, and then how can we help them? So we've changed from, we don't do upfront advice fees anymore. We engage our clients, give them the opportunity to say, okay, if you want to be a client of ours, then we will charge you this per month, and the contract is for the next 12 months. The benefit that we looked at is saying, okay, if a client wants us to proceed and wants to be engaged with us, guess what? We're working from day one. We're not waiting 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 3 months down the track. If they need wills and they haven't got a will, that's the first thing that we'll do. We'll prioritise all their advice and go and take them to a solicitor, get that done. If they haven't got insurance and it's one of their number one, if they don't have any income protection, okay, let's get that sorted straight away. It's one of those critical things that we need to be able to do. So they're the conversations. So from taking that client on, we're working from them from day one, not 3 months later.
Yeah, so this is a really interesting model in itself. So straight into monthly contract, say for a 12-month period, but we're looking at monthly, then you can triage what's sort of needs to be done first. So you're obviously looking at their values and understanding what their best financial life is going to look like. But then the plan could come out over a 6-month period, really, to let's fix all the things up that are broken first, and then we'll work on the other things. Is that how it's done?
So once the client actually says, yes, we're happy to go, we'll actually do an onboarding video. So part of that video, so again, we're sort of moving into this video and client experience with the technology that we're utilising. So as part of that onboarding video, part of the onboarding video is also explaining to clients, all our staff, who they are, what they do. So again, good experience so that when someone's ringing their phone, they know, okay, yep, this is whoever, and yep, this is what their role is. But also we're going to prioritise what their advice. Look, these are all the issues that we talked about. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're actually going to deal with this in our next meeting. We'll actually talk about, okay, prioritising that advice. So they've got the onboarding video. We do a Phonometrica risk profiling questionnaire, which we can cover that off a little bit later. So we've got that information. The client then comes back, we prioritise the advice, and part of that then is we do the video advice. So that's probably the real big change up with where we're going from a technology point of view. But more importantly, it's the client experience.
Yeah. Now we're going to get into this video advice in a second. Just with the onboarding video, is that an individual onboarding video that you've done for each client, or is that something you've done and then you send out?
So the way that we do these videos, we've got a PowerPoint presentation that we go through. So we've got all the photos of all our staff. So we're talking about what they do. We're also going through what their fee is and what that entails based on the service that we're actually going to provide to them over the 12 months. So it's not a statement of advice. It's just onboarding video, giving them an understanding of what they can expect over the next 12 months.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay. And that's almost, you've sent them the FSG, for example, but this is the actual personalised version of that.
Yeah, and these videos probably 3 to 5 minutes, no longer than 5 minutes.
Yep.
So we did look at the efficiency point of view where we can actually do a video and just send that out to our clients. But again, it's client experience. We want to make sure that we've got a customised, personalised experience for the client, and that's critical for everything that we do.
Okay, so that's if I come in, you're the advisor. I come in, we have a values meeting, and then you do me a onboarding video.
Yeah, onboarding video comes out, so that goes out in a Dropbox link.
Yep.
So the video is done just from the technology point of view. We use OBS. So we looked at a lot of the technology around. OBS was the best technology because it downloaded. We didn't actually have anything in the cloud. It downloaded directly to our laptops. So we wanted to be a little bit in control of everything that we actually do. So that worked really well with OBS. We've had that. We can then just go and review the video. We've got dual screens, so we've got 2 dual screens in the laptop. So we're moving from screen to screen and also face to face as well. Yep. So it is that really good client experience.
Yeah. Now, for anybody listening, OBS is a open broadcast software. It's open sourced, and it, as you said, it downloads to your machine. So it's saving the files on your personal machine, not into the cloud.
Yeah, and works well. And mind you, we've been doing this for 2.5 years, and we continue to stuff up. But one of the things that we do, that I say to all my advisors, is you just keep pushing through. If it's not a big stuff up, just keep going, because that makes it personal.
Yeah,
it's that people make mistakes, and if there's wording you're not really too sure of, but still, if we're keeping to our script and we've got a PowerPoint presentation and we're getting a message across, then that's the number one. But we also want to make sure that we've got a lot of energy in our videos as well with the clients, so they can see that we're really focused in, and it's just all about them. It's their best interest, and we just love giving advice to our clients.
Fantastic, and I'm sure the clients love getting a video or a personalised video.
Yeah, yep, they absolutely do.
All right, so that's the first part, the onboarding. Let's talk about the advice piece, because there is, as we get into this idea of creating a video statement of advice, let's talk about how that works from a practical point of view, and then we'll get into sort of how your clients feel about it. Yeah,
so the history there also, we spend a lot of money with a lawyer and actually going through that process, because, okay, how do we do video advice? Are you able to do video advice based on the legislation? So we went through that. That probably took about 6 months to be able to go through that. And it was about just doing these videos, getting them to have a look at it, understanding where they're at. There was a lot of feedback that came through. So we've just continued to keep on fine-tuning over and over again to where we are today. And it's just one of those things that we keep on changing and evolving. And I suppose, sharing best practice with the advisors to say, okay, how can we make this process better? And then also come back to a client feedback point of view is what type of feedback are we actually getting? So we're asking those clients, is it good for them as well?
Yep. So from the legislation point of view, there was nothing in the legislation that said you couldn't do a video statement of advice. Yep. And then, of course, the next thing they'll always go, well, it depends on what you're saying, how you say it, and if you cover everything. So you've been through that process to work out all of the points that you need to hit, and you put them into a PowerPoint presentation so that you're essentially presenting as you go through the presentation. That leads the advisors to make sure they hit all the points that are necessary.
Absolutely. So again, it's just, what's your recommendation? What are the reasons for your recommendation? Is there alternatives? We're covering off all the fees and charges. So all the usual information. That PowerPoint presentation, depending on how complex it is, and this is probably a critical part of why video advice works really well. It is scoped. Every advice is scoped. So we're not doing holistic advice. It's critical because your videos would be 30 minutes to an hour, and that's lost on clients. So 5 to 10 minute video. So it might mean we're doing, for a new client, it might be 5 or 6 different presentations that we're doing over a 12-month period. So again, short. So again, legislation says it needs to be concise, so clients can easily understand it. What's the experience like for the client, and just making sure that we are, from a compliance point of view, hitting all those points of why we're doing the advice and the disclosure that we need to be able to do as well. And is it in the client's best interest, and why is it in their best interest for that advice as well? So again, prioritising all that advice in order, where we're actually discussing that with the client. So from our point of view, we'll say, okay, look, this is a couple of things that we think is important to you. But then they might say, look, this is great, but I want to be able to get this part of the advice first. Not a problem. We discuss that and then start to go with that particular advice. So we'll do the PowerPoint presentation. Again, our paraplanner can turn that PowerPoint presentation, because it is scoped advice and we've been doing this for 2.5 years. We can turn them around in 30 minutes. That's how quickly the PowerPoint presentation can be done. We've got additional information that forms part of it as well. But the PowerPoint presentation goes to the advisor. The advisor then records the video. So what the client will actually see, which is probably important for the viewers, is they'll see the video is number one. So when we do the Dropbox link, that's your statement of advice. So it includes the video, includes our scoped advice. It includes our goal summary. We'll then go into their financial position, which is a summary of all their financial position. So it's, again, know your client, making sure that we can understand them, talk about their goals, what the advice we're actually giving them, and then any additional information. So if it's insurance advice, okay, what other additional information? So this is the education that comes in. If it's superannuation, depending on what the strategy is, there's some additional information. So when the client actually gets that particular document, they've got the choice that, number one, we'll always say, go through the video. Once they go through the video, then they've got all that additional information they can go through as well, which sort of that is the statement of advice.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. So, from a practical point of view, you've had your meetings, you've worked out what the triage. I call it triage. You're like, what do you want to focus on first? Let's say if we're focusing on fixing up everything to do with your risk, and then we're going to look at your investment preferences and superannuation, all those things over the next few months. Let's say we're just looking at risk. Your paraplanner. You still use a paraplanner or somebody that creates that PowerPoint presentation, looks at the strategy, looks at the selection of the product, whatever product you're going to use, puts that into the PowerPoint presentation. You, as the advisor, record a quick 5 to 15 minute video, depending on the complexity. That video then gets sent to your client in a link.
Yeah. So, and every video is ordered by another financial advisor in the business.
Yep.
Really critical. Because that's about the training and the understanding what other advisors are actually doing, and making sure that we're delivering the same experience for every client that we have in our business.
Yep. Okay. So you'll be creating videos and watching videos throughout the process of the advisors in your office. That gets sent to the client, and then the client gets to watch that, look at the forms, and then come and talk to you again. What's the next step after?
Yeah. So what we're finding, especially for new clients, is that once they go through the process once, they can understand it. So they'll watch the video. Just so those clients that don't have email, that can't actually get technology, they'll come in to the office, and then we'll play the video for them. So really important. We play the video, then the advisor will actually then come in after the video is played and have a conversation. Then we'll go through, again, the presentation. What are the queries that you've actually got? But what we're actually finding now is as we're starting to go through the different levels of advice, usually the first two are okay. Clients will actually come in. The third, fourth, and fifth is the clients understand that they watch the video, they're okay, they're coming back, we're having a quick conversation. Do you understand it? Making sure that we've got that informed consent from both clients. And then we're executing it, and we do that through DocuSign as well. So we're now starting to get a lot more efficient process because clients are used to what we're actually doing. But number one, we still came back to that client experience because a lot of clients haven't got the time to come into the office, especially with what we're doing. We're not seeing them once a year or twice a year for the first 12 months. We're seeing them probably 4 or 5 times, but we're also giving the opportunity where we're actually valuing their time. So again, forgetting about what our experience is, let's look at the client's experience. Everyone's busy. They've got families, they've got work. So we need to make sure that this is a more efficient process for them. And that's the feedback that we're actually getting from some of our clients, especially for those business owners where they're really busy. They can watch the video, they can watch it in 5 to 10 minutes and go, yep, not a problem. And then we can actually start to execute the advice.
Yeah, and this process, obviously, online meetings is very much not a problem. You can have a quick meeting to go through any questions.
Yeah, and Zoom works even better. So especially for I know we're working on some things with ASIC, but informed consent is when you're recording a video with the presentation. So they've already seen the video, but you're just doing a quick Zoom meeting, saying, "Okay, Lep, do you understand that? Can you please explain what we're actually doing for you?" They explain it. We've got it on video, so you can't get any better informed consent than that.
I 100% agree with you. That recording of that video of the, yes, I understand, yes, I want to go ahead, yes, I want to get this in place, can we do it, can we start now, is absolutely incredible. Now, talk to me about the clients that have been through, because we're talking about client experience. You will have had some clients who were born and bred the old school way, where we taught them this is how we provide advice in this hefty document. And then you've been through a transition process where you've said to those clients, we don't do that anymore. We do something new. So talk to me about clients that have been through both the old way and the new way and what their reaction has been.
Yeah, it's been unbelievable. So even for those clients that don't have computers, but we had one client, probably the first one that we actually had, the feedback was, guess what? We finally understand your advice. Which to me, that's just going, well, wait up. We've previously done these statement advices and got these documents. They're complex. There's so much information in it, and clients can't comprehend it. Again, we're not taking anything away from teachers or engineers, but they love to have that information and read that through. But that might only make up 5% of our population. The other 85% don't, and most people understand through pictures as well. So that's critical with what we're actually doing. So the feedback that we're actually getting each time, and doesn't matter if they're 20 or in their 70s or even 80s, the feedback's been great because it's just really concise. They understand it. They understand why we're doing it and what the benefits are for them. And we've got the opportunity for them to still then present the advice and go through any questions that they have. So when we're doing the client presentation, it's completely changed. It's not an hour and a half meeting. We're actually going through every page of the document, or like other advisors, a summary, and don't even go through the statement of advice. We're just going through those key points because we can bring up the PowerPoint presentation. Have you got any questions? Go through it, make sure that they understand it, get that informed consent. But then the difference that we're actually doing, because we're all about Enlightened Financial Solutions rather than James Wortley or Scott Jamieson as the financial advisors. So it's a corporate business. So when we do the sign up, we don't do the sign up. The advisor walks out. The admin team come in to do the actual sign up. So we're actually building a corporate relationship with our clients. It's not about the advisor, but it's about this team of Enlightened Financial Solutions. So that's working really well. Our staff love it. Clients love it as well.
Yeah. Now, I just want to dig into that because I think this is actually off the back of, it's not just a corporate relationship, but it's a professional relationship. So I sort of have this theory that if we go to the doctor and they ask all the questions about our past and our history and what we're doing and our habits, and then they created, they might diagnose something, and then they talk about a treatment plan, and then they prescribe some medication, but then you go off to the chemist to get the medication, the prescription filled. And that's kind of what you're doing in your practice. The doctor is in the room prescribing what needs to be done and talking about the treatment plan, or what I call it the financial planning part, and then the prescription, which is the financial advice part. But then they go off to another part of your, somebody else in your organization to fill the prescription, essentially.
Yeah, and works well. Just, again, advisors are always looking for more time that we can actually spend with more clients. And that gives us the time to be able to do that. But it still come back to it's the client experience. The clients love the experience as well.
Fantastic. Now, I just want to go back on one step and talk about that transition from old world to new world and those clients that have been. So there's been no resistance, because I hear the thing all the time from people that says, yeah, but some clients still like the paper document. Yeah, some clients still want a written SOA. So we've got to be able to make sure that those. Have you had many clients that still say they want the paper?
None at all. So look, this is the way that we're doing things, and again we know those more technical clients that want more information, but that's fine, because we actually put that into our videos anyway, and we can move across into whatever we're talking about from a strategic point of view. So this is where we'd have additional information up there as well. So it's still the information. Probably the one thing that I'm not a massive believer in is projections. Again, projections, when you actually got all these numbers, I know tax assessment and everything else, look, it's important, but when you're doing projections, life is not like that. Things change. The projections are out the window. We saw that back in March last year. We might find that in another 3 or 4 weeks, something happens. What's the projections do? It's nothing. So probably on the projection side is really important that we do projections at the annual review. So we're doing it yearly. Are they on track? What are we looking to be able to do? And this is probably a nice little segue to what we do as part of the annual review process. So when we're talking to our clients, we're going through that. When they walk out the door, it's hour and a half. Can you remember what we were doing and everything's going okay, but what does that actually mean? So we then, as soon as the advisor finishes the meeting, they go straight back upstairs. They'll then actually record a video, generally 5 to 7 minutes, and explain exactly what we actually went through. So again, from a client experience and feedback point of view, they love that feedback to say, oh yes, I can remember that. We talked about that. This is where we are, and guess what? We are on track. We know everything you're actually providing for us. So I think that is not just the video advice when it comes back to the statement of advice or record of advice, but the annual review process as well, to be able to bring that forward for clients to be able to understand that a lot better. So there's been some real fantastic feedback on that.
Yeah, wonderful, and definitely nobody in there, like as you mentioned before, in their maybe their 80s or something like that, having a problem with the video rather than the paper.
No, because the video, again, it's unless you've got hearing issues, which some clients do, but again, they've got hearing aids these days. But because we've got a massive screen there in our interview office, and we turn the volume up so that once the client, it's just like we're presenting it with the client anyway. But it saves financial advisors time when you're going through a summary and talking about it in 5 minutes. Compare that to if you presented that PowerPoint presentation with a client and you're going through that. It's you're not talking about 5 to 7 minute presentation. You're talking about 45 minutes to an hour. Yep. So there's definitely some efficiencies that you're actually getting as part of that process.
Yeah. Now, speaking of those efficiencies, have you actually worked out, quantified what that might mean to your business from an efficiency point of view?
We haven't quantified it with how much time saving. I suppose from an expectation point of view, with our advisors, we're finding that we're at least getting an hour back of our time every day by doing what we're actually doing. So that's big. From an administration point of view, the admin team they don't have as much work that they actually do from an administration point of view. And then from our paraplanner point of view is because we've got all our sets of advice, we've got those pro forma PowerPoint documents, he can turn them out really quickly. So if we had a client that came in today, we could have a video to them this afternoon. So how many businesses in Australia could actually do that? There's not many.
No, and it sounds to me like there's at least sort of 3 or 4 or 5 hours of paraplanning time saved alone.
Oh, it is. And still come back to, I keep on harping on over and over again, client experience. Forget about our experience. What is the client getting out of it? And that's what is building trust, building relationship with those clients, and providing the advice that they actually need to make sure that it's in their best interest and making sure that it's working for them for their financial life goals.
Yeah, fantastic. Now let's dive into the compliance side of this, because I know there's going to be people thinking, well, my compliance department will never allow that, and they probably won't just yet, but it could be coming down the track. But talk to me about the legal opinions you've had, what the lawyers have said to you with regards to, is this compliant or is it not?
Yeah, so the legislation, again, I'm not going to quote all the regs for it, but part of the advice is it can be a written format, it can be through gamification, it can be through video. There's a big range of advice that you actually can provide. And I suppose it just takes a few people to be able to sort of take a few more risks. And that's the one thing that we're very confident about is the advice that we provide to our clients. We are very diligent when it comes back to the advice. We work as a team. So we weren't sort of scared of, taking this step. So number one is getting that legal advice to say, can you do it? That was the big one. Yes, you can do it. Okay, then how? What are we going to be able to present? And it's still everything in the statement of advice. So obviously the projections is one thing that we keep out of it, because again, that's 5-6 pages. If you're actually looking at know your client, we're talking about another 10 pages of know your client, but we've got all that information in that process as well. So from a compliance point of view, it was a little bit hard to be able to get compliance people to be able to understand what we're trying to do. They could see it, they could understand it, but they weren't confident to turn around and go, well, okay, yep, this is great. They did think, look, this is fantastic. This is where we need to be able to go. But how can you do that from a compliance? Because it doesn't fit the checklist, does it?
No.
So if you got your compliance checklist, okay, have you done this paper SOA, blah, blah, have you code? It doesn't form part of that. And that's why we really need these big licensees to really start to have a look at what we're doing. Again, we're just a regional financial advice business that decided to be able to take some risks, but the risk was to present a better advice process for our clients. And anyone can do it. We've done it. We're not technology gurus in any sense.
Yes, it just takes a little bit of motivation. And so I'll go back to this mindset, because this is what's holding a lot of the profession back, in this mindset of, that's not the way we've always done it. It's weird. It's outside the box. Every time you take something to an underwriter or a compliance person that's outside of a box, it's very difficult for them to go, well, it's okay. How has that been? Like, have you've had lawyers look at it, you've had other compliance people. How have you seen that shift, that mind shift in the people that are giving you advice on it?
Well, it was good. Sean Graham is one of the guys that we use for our compliance audit. So the one question we actually said to him, and once we went through that audit process, said, look, everything's fine. And we came back and said, look, should we move back to a statement of advice? Are we going too far? What's your thoughts on that? And he just turned around and said, you'd be crazy. Why would you go back? This is the best thing, because it's, number one, you're ticking all the boxes from a compliance point of view, but it's, again, come back to client experience. The client understands the advice. It's simple, it's concise, they understand it, and that's what we need to be able to move to. So it's so it sort of just went, no, there's no way we're actually heading backwards now. It's continue on with the video advice and continue to make sure that we can actually provide advice in a better way, and again, bring more energy to our videos. That's always something that we're trying to do with our advisors as well. So we're building on that client experience. Yeah,
the understanding is the big part there, isn't it? Outside of a mistake, a misunderstanding would have to be one of the biggest cause of complaints.
Oh, it is, and to me, the way that we're actually doing scoped advice, I can't understand why we would go back to holistic advice, because if you make one little mistake, just say, don't want to hang out the paraplanners, but if there's, I don't know, you X-plan or whatever you're actually doing, and you put some wrong number or anything like that and you don't pick it up. But if you've got a lawyer coming through and actually having a look at, this is what you've got in your statement of advice, or guess what, you've done holistic advice. So why haven't you done this? Why haven't you done that? Why haven't you done this? So it becomes questionable with the advice you're actually providing. You're probably thinking that this is fantastic advice for the client. But when you've got a compliance person looking over it, I'll guarantee you can always find holes. But if you're doing strategic advice that's scoped, and you're taking all that and just keeping really concise, guess what? Compliance, you're a lot more compliant than you probably would ever be in doing holistic advice.
Yes, it's very, and that whole understanding conversation comes into that as well. We all know that if you overload somebody with too much information and too many decisions at once, then they tend to just go into a state of shock and not make any decisions. So I think from that point of view, if you're overlaying estate planning and super and family issues and risk and all these things in one go, it can be very daunting for a client during their experience. Very good. So there's a lot happening in your space. You've created this video statement advice. How long have you been doing it for now?
Yeah, so we started 2.5 years. As soon as we got our licensing, so it's probably been 2 years now, 6 months of making sure we got the legal advice, but we still had to do documents there and videos to be able to show them, to be able to get through that legal process of approval. So, but it's 2 years and we're still learning.
Yeah, fantastic. It's amazing evolution. And talk to me about strategies, and because I know that you've done a lot of work in that space as well, and just some explainer videos around some of the strategies you recommend.
Yeah, so from a strategy point of view, we've developed a strategy checklist. So this is why we're really confident with the advice we provide. We've got 60 to 80 strategies that we do in a spreadsheet, and we tick them all off to say, okay, for every client every year, making sure we don't miss out on anything. And again, part of our session on a Friday is with the 5 financial advisors. We're reviewing all our clients as part of that process, and we're learning. So new clients going through that as well. So, but from a strategy point of view, it's making sure that clients understand it. So when they're doing a PowerPoint presentation, what we found is clients are actually pausing the video and just going back. And that was probably the critical part of what we know with the video advice, that it actually works, is that if clients aren't sure, they can just go back, replay it. If it needs a couple of times, then they can do that. So strategically with our videos, we're still going through the strategy and actually giving them a good understanding with the way the advice actually works. So clients can understand, especially when you've got complexity. It might be recontribution strategies or whatever the complexity is.
Fantastic. And they're all provided in as you go through those strategies, you provide them with a video of each individual strategy if they want to go back and get deeper and deeper. Fraser, in that one, it actually still forms part of our video advice. So the strategy and everything else is in that. There's no additional videos that we actually have for that strategic advice. Yep. Okay. Fantastic. And so exciting times. And certainly it seems to me like, a great way to, provide efficiencies and effectiveness in your business, especially around that client experience point of view, as well as, the time savings, incredible. Tell us what else you're doing, because I know you're doing a lot of work in the space of, talking to clients about their hopes, dreams, goals, aspirations, understanding what their values are in life, understanding that they're on the same page, and you're evolving in that space as well.
Yeah, so we're one of the founding businesses in the Lumient business. I know you had Santi back in February. So Lumient. So we, just to come back, a couple of years ago, we actually went to United Capital over in the US, over in Dallas. And met a guy called Joe Duran, who's built an unbelievable business. So we actually went through that boot camp and actually went through the training, and it was all about giving value-based advice. When we came back, we decided as a group to say, okay, look, what can we be able to do? So we've been developing that technology and actually just rebuilding it for what's important to us, because we can see when you look at a process, you can say, okay, look, this works really well, but these other things don't work as well. So again, 5 or 6 businesses got together, and Santi being our little leader, decided, look, let's build this thing. So it's all about making sure that number one, we can actually work out. So the process is doing a confidence video. So confidence questionnaire. Understand, okay, where the confidence levels are for the clients in all the different areas. The values advice. So this is the critical part, which I think we don't do well as financial advisors. So when we're talking about goals, again, the goals-based advisors are actually doing it really well. The other advisors, when it comes back to more investment advisors, really struggle with this. But when we talk about goals, we might come back, client wants to retire at age 60 with this amount of money, blah, 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 blah. It might be 3 or 4 goals. But when you're talking about values on what's really important to clients, what makes them tick, and I might just run through Joe, his example to us, because again, he uses one of the financial advisors, and Joe met with a financial advisor. He's just been on a holiday for 6 weeks in Spain with a family, and one of his values was making sure that you spend more time with family and friends. that's critical. Do we have those conversations with our clients? Generally not. So with our values conversation, the financial advisor said, okay, Joe, out of 0 to 10, where do you think you are on this particular goal? And he goes, 9. Fantastic. Just had 6 weeks, great holiday. And then went to his wife and said, oh, what score would you do? And she said, 3. So Joe's turned around and going, heck, we've just been overseas. We had a great holiday. And then she explained that, Joe, it was fantastic. Loved the holiday, but we also know we're probably not going to see you now for the next 9 months or 12 months. This is life planning. When you get that feedback from a partner to say, okay, look, what's your priority? You said your priority in life is family and friends. What are you doing? You're thinking you're doing a good job, but when you bring that accountability back in, that's what we call it. This is what advisors love. And I know we've got a lot of advisors that are leaving the industry, but I think Lumient, with what we're actually built, is something we can actually bring those old advisors that are getting out of the industry, get them back in, because this is what they love. They love talking to their clients about values and what's really important to them in life. And guess what? There's no product advice. There's no strategy advice. So my big call out to those advisors that love the industry but are getting out because of exams or the education standards, that there's a big opportunity with Lumient to be able to have really quality conversations with our clients. So that's the values. I just want to cover one thing that we don't do really well in our industry as well, is on the risk profiling. And actually, so we've come up with what they call the best, I think the world's best risk profiler questionnaire. So it's about investment preferences. So it's talking to clients, having a conversation, giving them the education about what's really important to them and understand what again, growth assets, income assets, do the education side, but what's actually really important to them. And for some clients, that might be fees and charges. That might be their driver. They just want to make sure that they got really low fees, but then also pretty low direction when it comes back to their investments. They just don't care about what they're actually doing. Whereas other clients want to be, okay, look, I want to be making sure that we've got good investments there that are good for society. And we want to be a lot more customized. We want to be able to have a say with the way that we're actually investing in it. We're happy to pay a cost for that as well. So currently with our risk profile, and unfortunately our statement of advice is coming back into that, bringing that back into it, is we've got one risk profile, which is absolutely ridiculous. Clients don't have one risk profile. They should have a risk profile for every goal that they have. So if it's superannuation and it's going to be 30-year time frame, then they should have a different risk profile. If they're actually going to save money for whether it be a car or doing something like that, that might be 2 to 3 years. So it's a completely different risk profile. If it's kids' education and it's next 7 years, it's a different risk profile again. But unfortunately, with what we do with risk profiling is we do this ridiculous balanced and high growth language, which still astounds me today that we're actually using this language. But we're talking about clients and what's really important to them. What's the client experience? So that's where I think the area of what we're actually doing with the investment preferences is, what do the clients want? We're asking the clients what they want, not the compliance side saying, you've done a Finometrica, you come back at a 50 score, you're now a moderate portfolio. This means you should have 50% here, 50% there. It's a ridiculous conversation to be able to have. I know advisors have a lot better conversations. They do it from a compliance tick, and that's what it's become. It's like the statement of advice. It's a compliance tick. But the better conversations that we're having is talking to our clients about risk and return. That's the power. And to be able to use Lumient in that process, we're actually taking notes, and clients are actually saying, what's important to me? We want this, and this. The clients are telling us that. It's not about, look, we're going to provide this type of advice. This is going to be more expensive. And then we've got ASIC turning around and saying, it's more expensive. Why are you doing that? Because clients are saying this is what they want. It's the client experience again.
It's 100% back down to that conversation around know your client, right? I mean, you mentioned the compliance tick before, but the compliance tick is only there because somebody in compliance put the tick there around that investment profiling conversation, which just happened to coincide with all the names of the products available. What are the chances?
Who would have thought?
But certainly that idea of client preference certainly makes up the know the client. To me, makes up know the client a lot.
Well, it makes a lot more sense. Again, I can get very passionate about this, as you can see, but just some of the holes and where we've actually come from. It's been great. I love with where the government's going, education standards and things like that. I sent a consultation to ASIC as well, just about what my thoughts are, but it's about product is where you get in trouble. Our whole industry is when you bring product, that's the issue. And we need to be able to class as accountants and solicitors where we can provide advice. We can do it on an hourly rate, give fantastic advice. Let's leave the statement of advice for the product. I think that's a better way of actually providing advice. So we're again, trying to reduce fees for clients. That's going to be a better way to be able to do. But again, do that once we've got the exam ticked off and we're all university educated. Let's treat us like professionals rather than salespeople.
Yep, wonderful. Well said. Thank you, James. Thank you for coming on the Scale Up series and just talking about what the stuff you're doing in your practice now that you have done and you've tried and tested with clients, and they're proving to certainly love the experience. So I really appreciate you coming and sharing. And if somebody wants to continue the conversation, how could they sort of find you?
Yeah, probably the best one's LinkedIn. Happy to connect with anyone there. Again, because I'm really trying to get some momentum. I've done a few webinars now, just talking about and giving you examples of what we do with our video advice. So it's probably something that we need to start doing it a little bit more of as a business, just so we can share that out to other businesses, so they can see what we actually do, how we do it, and try to get other businesses to embrace where we're going, which is going to be better off for clients.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Let's get some other businesses joining the bandwagon, following in your footsteps. Thank you, James. Really appreciate your time and generosity in sharing what you're doing.
No worries. Thanks, Fraser.
Well, there you have it. Another episode of the XY Advisor podcast. I'm Fraser Jack, and I'm joined by Emily Blanche. Hey, Em.
Hey, Fraser. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for asking. I appreciate it. Now, a really cool part of the week, we get to hang out every week and talk about what some great work people are doing, and we give them a bit of a shout out this time. So who should we shout out to today?
Today, we are going to give a big shout out to XY Advisor Paul Benson. He jumped on to join us for an XY Plus web event recently to discuss acquisition, or growing organically versus acquisition. And it was really a case of Paul jumping on, really giving us a look into his experiences and his journey. So he has done both organic growth and acquisition. He's learned a lot along the way, made plenty of mistakes, and it was just a really frank conversation of him sharing those experiences and what he's learnt. Plenty of great comments coming through the session as well from other advisors, just saying thank you for sharing, some really good insights in there. So it was just an awesome conversation. And, my favorite thing, a good old dose of peer-to-peer learning. So shout out to Paul. Well
done, Paul. Good on you, mate. Certainly a bit of giving back to the community, a bit of thought leadership, and kind of love a little bit of experience. I love it when you hear the stories when things go right, but also when things go wrong, and you can go, yeah, you know what? That's a pretty good idea, pretty good learning from that mistake. So thanks for being vulnerable, Paul. What a legend.